Oh my love, you're such a fragile thing, I know. And with the winter comes the ice, the snow, but I'm here to hold. And oh my love, don't worry about the cold just yet. The trees haven't started to shed. Just feel the summer sun as it warms our bed.
The Chevrolet Corvette C8 Convertible 2LT. We've already covered the coupe in great detail, but I'm here to tell you I have a love-hate relationship with this car, and it is going to take everything in my power to release my bias, to bring to you the pros and cons of driving and spending time with this. So, the exterior, I'm just going to be honest, it looks like it's wearing a supercar body kit on it. It looks so awkward from behind. It's not a car that I feel is going to age gracefully. But, you know what? Who am I? A lot of the people love this new aggressive kind of futuristic mid-engine supercar look, and I think there's plenty of room for them to improve on little details, so I'll leave it at that. The interior space, take a look at it. There's nothing that GM has ever done that even rivals this, or you can match this. This is amazing. This is the best Corvette interior ever, and it's the attention of detail in the panel design, in the door cards, in the speaker grills, the way that they've laid everything out here without it feeling like it is super cheesy. There's good uses of alloys in certain places. The switchgear doesn't feel like it's gonna fall off in most places when you use it for more than a year. It doesn't feel like the whole dashboard is gonna creak or like you're sitting in a garbage bag like the C5 was. And to me, it makes it a much more special experience to drive it. It has an enormous wow factor to regular people and enthusiasts. So let's go over some of the detail stuff. Since this does not have a manual transmission option, all your shift controls are in the center console, including this drive mode, which feels very high quality to rotate it, and the little palm rest here. Again, it's the attention to detail that makes this feel way more expensive than it really is. And keep in mind, this is an $80,000 car. And when I heard people say, oh, it's better than a Ferrari, supercars can't touch it, that's not necessarily true, but I can see why you would say that, because the leather quality feels good, at least on first touch. The seats are well designed and comfortable for a huge body type, all the way down to being a smaller person. It has this square style steering wheel, and a lot of people complain, oh, it's kind of awkward, but it makes sense when you look at the way that they laid out the gauge cluster. There's no obstruction because they made the top part of the steering wheel wider to accommodate this digital cluster. It doesn't cut off the warning lights on the side. So there's clever use of knowing, okay, we made this huge screen, now people need to be able to see it. And that's something that even Porsche doesn't do very well. The infotainment is simple and it's easy to get to with your fingers. There's no physical controller per se, but you can touch it and interact with it. And the best part, technology-wise, is when you turn off the screen, you don't have to re-interact with it if you change your track on the steering wheel. It shows you the thing in the heads-up display and doesn't turn on the screen at night. So even there's clever use of software design in this part of the car. Now, there are some negatives, right? I mean, like things like the paddles, as much as they feel high quality, there does not seem to be any detent in it. You can't tell when they engage. A lot of the buttons and switches don't have positive reinforcement. The steering wheel controls at the bottom have these tacked on volume and track knobs that are just, they feel like an afterthought. The center console is definitely skewed towards the driver. When you're in the passenger side, there's not a lot of armrest room, so you find yourself bumping the HVAC controls along the center stack, but at least they're physical. And, there's a lot of little sports car things in here that may or may not age well, but at least in this day and age, I feel like this is going to impress a lot of people. Now onto some of the cheapness. The vent controls are all these little plastic little nubs here, and I feel like this is definitely one of those. As these vents start to get harder to move as the car ages, like most cars do, this is something that feels like it's gonna snap off. So there, again, it's all these little nitpicky things that I found that don't add up to a whole lot, because again, you have to give GM and Chevy props for taking this to the next level, not being content with just kind of rehashing the same thing they've done in the past. Now, let's head into the shop and talk about some of the mechanical attributes to the convertible, because that's something you're gonna wanna know.
So Mark, we're underneath a all-new C8 Convertible. This is the 2LT package without Z51 and in my favorite shade of alimony blue.
Wow, yeah, this thing's incredible. I'm gonna do a scientific test. I got my PSA done before, and when we're done with this video, I'm gonna get my PSA test done again, and guaranteed I'm gonna have a raging case of BPH. In fact, it took me 20 minutes to piss just before we got this started. But anyway, tell me about this car.
Well, if you want to learn everything there is to learn about the C8, watch our other video. There's like a 25-minute shop segment that I spent dozens of hours researching for. This is essentially an identical car. The convertible top is very unique because all their motors and whatnot to get this convertible top to do some metallic origami. It's very impressive. Doesn't eat into the trunk space at all. It doesn't really affect body rigidity.
But does it carry my clubs?
It does. You can still carry your clubs in your C8, Mark, which is all you need in your high-performance mid-engine supercar.
Do me a favor, speed this up, because I got to pick up my girlfriend from Applebee's when we're done with this.
Okay, so this is still a aluminum monocoque car. It still has in-wheel double wishbone suspension, front and rear. This car does not have the Z51 package, which is the performance package, which allows you to have height-adjustable dampers. Does not have the increased cooling in the larger rotors themselves. The rotors are bigger in the Z51. They're smaller in the non-Z51, and you don't have the additional cooling found throughout the car.
So this is more the touring car version.
Yeah, this is the country club version. This also does not get the E-diff, which means you don't have PTM with all the performance traction modes. Does not have all the additional auxiliary coolers as well. This is not the variant you would get if you want to take this car on the track or really have a good time with it on the road as well, because this does not also have the dedicated summer tires. This car comes on all-season tires.
Oh, which means they're sideways tires. And to be fair,
Yeah.
when you look at this, and you brought it up as soon as we put it in there again, you just forget how much work and energy went into developing this. It looks like a Ferrari underneath. I'm not kidding. It does. It looks exactly like the old 458 and 488s we looked at.
Now, this is an extremely impressive car underneath, and when you figure the price, this is $80,000. This puts things to shame like the Boxer we just had, the 718. This looks like a far more expensive architecture.
It does, for sure. And I mean, you can't take it away from how much money and development and engineering they put into this car. And we're gonna joke around about it because there's a lot of things to joke around about, but when it comes down to it, this is an incredible thing that GM has done.
Yep, and as a starting point, I get very, very excited to think about what's going to happen with things like the Z06. And as it's been announced, it's going to have a flat plane crank, high revving, naturally aspirated V8, which comes from their...
Their 3500
yeah, their van.
box truck? It's going to be a bespoke engine for it?
It sounds like it's coming right out of their C8R.
Oh, wow.
Which is going to be really, really cool.
Okay, let's get there. What, can we go in time and see that car now?
Well, by the time you can actually get one of these, and this is something I'm going to bring up as well, this car is sold out for a bajillion years, so good luck trying to get one of these. Lastly, this does have an interesting drivetrain. It is the LT2 engine, which is a derivative of the LT1. The intake manifold and some of the other stuff has been replaced, and this has a 8-speed dual clutch, which is a derivative of the Tremec dual clutch found in the GT500.
And let's talk about the biggest thing. You can't see the engine in this car because it's covered up by plastic, unlike the coupe. So to me, done deal, I can't get this.
You need the coupe?
I want to see my engine.
All right, Mark, with that, let's hit the road.
Jack, we are in the C8 Corvette, this time the convertible. This is our second go-around with this car. We're going to talk about what it's like to drive on the street and then the track. Most people ask us what this car is like to live with on a daily basis, and I think we're going to be able to explain that quite well.
Mark, we're in track mode. This is a non-Z51 equipped convertible, a 2LT. I'm going to launch it for you. And it's on all-season tires.
Oh, sounds good. never been in something like this before, this thing is fast as hell in a straight line.
There's something to be said about General Motors V8s. And particularly when it's paired to this Tremec dual clutch, there's an almost instant gratification when it comes to the way this thing delivers torque and horsepower. It doesn't have the most character in the world, particularly compared to some of its more exotic rivals.
Yeah.
But for the price, for $80,000 in this car's case, you are getting a lot of car. It is nearly impossible to fault this dual clutch. It is very similar to what was found in the GT500, which means you can shift mid-corner, you can shift pretty much anytime you want, never upsets the car. It doesn't have that harshness that you get out of like a 458 dual clutch or like an M dual clutch,
it's
but
smooth.
it's very smooth.
So let's talk about the main things with the Street. All right, the main question we keep getting is, what is it like to live with this on a daily basis? And this is in a class of cars, when you start to get in this price range for about 80 grand, you have the Jag F Type, you have the LC500 convertible, you have 911s, which are more expensive, but you can still lump them in the same category.
And you get the 4-cylinder Caymans.
Yes. And
some of the Mercedes convertibles, and like an M4 or M3 convertible as well.
If you've ever watched this channel, I have to strip away all my bias and how I feel about the Corvette and GM for a moment to really sit back and say, this is an unbelievable car for $80,000. Mid-engine, it's quiet, it rides well, it does everything good on the street, it has an enormous wow factor in terms of performance, and it pains me to say this, Jack, nothing rivals this. And I really like the thing, like every car has their own unique character. Like the LC has amazing refinement, it's quiet, it's a luxury barge, it's got great sound, but it can't compete with this on a performance perspective. The Porsche does not have the wow factor of this car, and just some of the things that it does so well. I mean, I could go on and on. So this car, at its price point, is absolutely in a league of its own.
Under $100,000, if you are looking for a dedicated GT sports car, we talked about this in the past, we're going to talk about it on the track. What makes this such a great street car strips away some of its ability to be a good driver's car.
Yes.
That instant gratification, the fact that it rides well and isolates you, hurts this car as purely an enthusiast vehicle. If you are someone who likes a raw, emotional connection to your car, where it does beat you up a little bit, like a Lotus, or hell, even an S2000 or a Miata.
Well, or your old C7 Vet.
Exactly.
Like, you know, that car, if you said, Mark, let's take my C7 Vet somewhere, I'd be like, yeah, can we not? Can we take the LC? Can we take something else? This car, it's sitting in your garage. You're never going to look back, oh, it's the wrong day. Oh, it's too hot. It's too cold. It's too rough. This thing, you always want to go out in it, and it's minimal drama. And I think that's great if you have a passenger, and it makes you want to go out for a drive. Even though it's not the most connected car, it makes you want to get out in it more so, because GM knew who their target audience was. It's not somebody who wants to be Johnny Backbroken or Johnny Sideways all the time. They want to be comfortable.
Though it does do sideways reasonably well, they want to be comfortable.
You can still have some fun, but this is not a car that's super sharp. It doesn't have a ragged edge to it. It's not a car that you have to take to the limit to enjoy. You cruise, you go fast in a straight line, and it's got luxury GT-like refinement for this price point. And it's pretty amazing. Short of a recall for engine fires or something blowing up or these things falling apart mid-drive, I don't see what you could possibly really complain about at $80,000.
If you think about the price, you focus on the value you're getting. We're about to take it to the track, and we're going to be in a C8 Z51 equipped car, but it's mind-blowing, man. And if you don't want all the track stuff, which is bird-lived, if you don't want all of the track stuff, and you're okay with losing some of the things like the dry sump diff and the rougher ride quality, this mag-ride equipped C8 convertible is an excellent car.
It is. So, Jack, let's head out into the track and see what it's like to pound this thing around at
Autobahn Country Club, Mark.
Jack, back in a C8, this time the convertible. And
yes.
We've had 3 experiences now in the Corvette C8. The first one, not so good, at least on track. I felt like that car was just an absolute disaster when you started to push it. Understeered like crazy, even with the track alignment. And we get into this, and it's completely different. Why is that?
Well, Mark, I think it's because the last C8 we were in lived a very, very bad life, or it was not set up correctly either from the factory or from extreme experience. This car is Autobahn's car. This is in their performance fleet. This is a Z51 equipped C8. And this, while it is not anywhere as edgy as something like a GT3 or a Ferrari, it is also not a horrific disaster like the last car we drove.
No, I mean, it understeers, don't get me wrong, but it's not like a front-wheel drive car in every corner where it just washes out. It's way more balanced, and it has that, of course, mid-engine feel that I expected, and I think this has changed my perception of what this car can be and what it is. If you can set it up, get the alignment tweaked, you get the right tires on here, I think as a stock car, I mean, this is not supposed to be the hardcore track machine, but I'm really impressed so far.
Yeah, this to me, and we talked about this kind of off camera, as a benchmark, right? This platform, as we beat to death in our first video and just briefly touched on in this one, this is an extremely, extremely impressive architecture for GM to be working with. They're going to keep it around for a long, long time, and once this goes flat plane crank or high revving or high horsepower, they put on stickier tires, they use larger brakes, and they make this a harder edged vehicle. It'll be very, very impressive. However, I will say this, and I spent time in our base C8 convertible as well with no Z51 package. The things that make this car such a great street vehicle, the soft ride, the isolation from the elements, the things that make it a world-class GT car also hurt it as a experience. I don't feel like it communicates with you almost at all.
Well, and then you said the brakes didn't even hold up one lap before they faded out. It's just this is a hard
base
one.
C8,
right,
not
the base
the Z51.
C8, and I think you look at a Corvette, you hear mid-engine, and you immediately think that it has to be like an amazing track car, and that's not how they have these cars set up. There's a clear division of what they're trying to do. It's street car first, GT car first, and then, you know, if you want to take it to the track, there's modifications you're going to have to make, and that's like pretty much every car. I just think what they have here, and we can't really speak to it in this generation car, or at least where we're at in this generation.
This trim, yeah.
This trim is maybe in 5 years, we're going to have a totally different discussion as they develop the hell out of this and turn it into a pure track car. Then you'll have the street car and the track car, and I feel like this is somewhere at the starting point still, but I'm way more impressed with this car than I was with the first one we drove. And I feel like I can definitely give it a break. If you're somebody that wants to have a dual-purpose car that's going to be...
It doesn't make you work hard when you're out here.
It doesn't. I feel like it's safe. It does most everything for you. It still moves around a little bit in the back end, but it's mostly understeer safe. You know what's going on in the front end first, and if you start to wash out, you know that the oversteer is coming. It's set up for somebody that, you know, doesn't do this all the time, and I think that's a great way to do it. But, Jack, let's head into the shop to talk about the final thoughts of the C8 convertible.
All right.
Final thoughts on the C8 convertible. I really wanted to hate this car. The previous one that we drove, and we've driven another one on track, it's a mixed bag because this car, as it stands with the 2LT package, it's got some annoyances. When you drive it hard, the brakes feel horrible. And we had it on track, it didn't even survive a lap. And even on street driving, you don't get a lot of braking confidence. So if you need more of that, you gotta go up. The other part is, the way that this is set up from the factory, it's great on the street. You wanna opt for MagnaRide. It is tremendous. It is one of the best GT cars you can get for in that $80,000 price range. I look at things like the Porsches, the 911, or the LC500, or the Jags. I can see why people blow this out of proportion. Mid-engine car has the supercar-esqueness to it, and if you get it set up right, you can change the suspension, the alignment. This would be very fun in a high-performance setting. That's just not this car. So this is really something for someone that has the money, that wants the comfortable ride, quiet ride for what it is. It still has enough throat from the exhaust and the engine to give you a little bit of excitement when you drive, and it has one of the best dual clutches on the planet. Even very close, and we can argue the technical part of it, but it's very close to what we found in the Porsche products and some of the other dual clutches from supercars. So what I'm trying to say is I'm spreading as much positivity and joy at what they did with this. I hope that it stays reliable, that they don't have a ton of chicken shit issues with it as it ages. But as a street car, you could not possibly ask for anything more than this. And it still, on the street at least, makes you feel something to drive it. The track is a different story, which we've already beaten to death. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.